So one thing I thought I would ask you about actually is, when you look back in time now to those Echo Fox lineups, they actually look way better on paper now than they did then, because people like Acadian and Greg have been like pretty decent players since then. Have obviously been LCS caliber. They've even been in teams that have been in the finals, etc. But back then, if people don't know, the teams were basically you, maybe the odd person that people knew, sort of like Keith, or obviously when Looper came the year after. But aside from that, these names, even if they're now known, were basically, that was like their first shot, that was like the first time they were in LCS. When you look back on the Echo Fox teams, do you actually think, was there enough good players, was there enough good pieces where they could have been better than they were? Obviously didn't make the playoffs.
I think the first year, absolutely not, because it was basically me and 4 rookies. And we were dealing with visa issues and all that kind of stuff too. So I don't really think there was a chance of that happening. The year after that, maybe. I personally think we kind of got as much out of it as we could, because throughout the spring season, they were trying out some new stuff where they tried to make it more like more regular sports, more physical sports, where we wake up early in the morning, I think around 8:30 a.m. and we spent like 3 hours doing like workouts, eating food, like getting there, getting back, all that kind of stuff, and then getting ready for scrims. And then we had like 2 blocks of scrims at the time. I think people did 3-hour blocks and then a small break and then another 3-hour block. And then after that, everybody is just kind of done with everything. Like they're just exhausted from everything. So there wasn't really a whole lot of time to play solo queue. We had like a couple of hours in the evening, and that's it. So we actually didn't. I personally don't think we were playing the game as much as we should have. I'm talking about that's 2017, start of 2017.
Yes,
with that team, and then they halfway through the season they kept trying to do the eternal scrimming, where we only are allowed to scrim our academy team.
Right.
And the start of summer, they enforced it where we were only allowed to scrim them and nobody else, which is like interesting experiment. But I think it's really hard to like get a lot better when you set those conditions.
I mean, the funny thing is, when you bring all that up, it actually makes a lot of sense in the context that Rick Fox himself came from, like a traditional sports background. Because the thing he's trying to implement there all sound like if you already had like the best team in the world, maybe that would be a good approach. Obviously, Koreans have famously scrimmed secretly, and tried to test stuff out. Obviously, if you already had like the perfect league players, if you did get them in shape and you give them a healthy lifestyle, you can see how that could potentially add to it. But my question, I think, is an obvious one if you're a fan, which is, didn't they eventually surely they should have looked at the team and gone, you also need like way better players than this though, like it's not like even in basketball you still need like role players, you can't just have LeBron, you have to have players that he can pass the ball to. So do you not get the feeling that they kind of like underestimated the amount of actual talent you need to be in a good team?
It's hard to say. I think it was just not their goal. More so than, obviously they would love to have the best possible players like everywhere, and then they can practice against each other, and in theory it might work out well. But I think it was part of, they wanted to be experimental and just like kind of stand out. And if it did end up working out, obviously it would change a big deal in
Sure.
NA, and it was the year before franchising. But I think there was a lot of things that kind of tied into why they would want to do these kind of things. I know that all the players disagreed with all of these decisions, because I don't think it's good to just play against the same players like the entire time. There's a lot of stuff you're missing out on and that you're not learning. But there also was some positive takeaways. Like I think when we were playing teams, they were like really, really scared of what we might or might not do from pick and ban phase. So we encountered a lot of weird pick and bans that I think benefited us. But overall it was a big mess.
On the point you said about how there wasn't just much time actually even left to play solo queue after all these extra things that you were doing, that seems like one area that as people try to push forward these discussions of, like what is like a healthy work-life balance, how should practice look, what is professionalism, when they push all these ideas forwards, it nearly always seems to come at the expense of just playing the game like a raw amount of hours. But the sad thing is, I feel like people can want that not to be true as much as they can, but there's a reason why the absolute best players in the world in League of Legends spam as many solo queue games as they can, basically. Like, I hear even still in like China and Korea, like when they have off days, it's just expected. You should be playing, you should be trying to keep your skills at the top. If not, literally having like, a certain rank that you have to be on the ladder to prove that you're good enough. Like, they can't really escape that, right? Like, I'm pretty sure in your career, if we were to chart the times you play the most solo queue, probably when you're the best at the game, right?
Yeah, I would say so. The experiment where we had to like do all this working out and stuff stopped during summer, but then the summer was where we only did the eternal scrimming. So we actually had a lot of time to play solo queue then. But we did the internal stuff. But yeah, I think it is true. League is like an ever-changing game. You have to constantly play the game, try to figure new stuff out. Otherwise, you're going to be behind at some point. Like maybe for some patches, you might be fine just playing the same stuff and doing the same things over and over, and you don't need to improve much as a team. But I think throughout the season, whenever there's changes all the time, you just have to play. There's no other way around it. And all the best players and the best teams are also doing it. I know that, the best teams in NA are also the ones playing the most solo queue, I'm pretty sure. And it has been that way for since I've been there, I think. So.
At the end of this Echo Fox time, I wanted to go into just a little bit like the circumstances of how you ended up not being on the team. Because I remember it was on Reddit and stuff, but it's one of those ones where I think some people didn't follow the full story. So as far as I remember, wasn't it something along the lines of you just didn't have a conversation with them? So you thought like, right, well, logically, they must be bringing me back next year. And then, it's like they're signing other people now. And wasn't it something like they only told you, like, we're not signing you for this, I guess would have been season 8. They only told you that, like, sort of last minute or something? Or like in a way where, didn't it also mean there kind of wasn't time and many other teams available? Is something along these lines?
They didn't tell me at all, actually. So when I had I think 8 or 9 different talks with them throughout the off season, and every single talk was always them asking if I wanted to join them next year, and they wanted to sign me next year. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Let's do that. I didn't even ask for permission to talk to other teams since I was still contracted with Echo Fox. I'm not really sure what happened. They brought in a new NBA guy that was like a former GM for like a year in, I don't know, in one of the teams, either the Nuggets or the Jazz or something like that. And he was the one that was controlling all the signings, I believe. But I also had talks with him like 5+ times where it's like, okay, we're going to sign with each other. And then, they just ended up not doing that, I guess. And that kind of caught me by surprise. So there was like 2 teams left. There was, I think, GGS still had left to sign the mid laner, and maybe that was about it. And the way I found out, it was actually I worked, I played at the office or something, and I had a show I was doing with some of the people from Echo Fox and Twin Galaxies, and I was on their show. And then I walked out of the rooms at the Echo Fox office and was like, okay, so Phoenix has just been announced as the mid laner, and that's kind of how I found out. So actually, they didn't tell me at all.
Listen, one of the things about your time in Echo Fox was I noticed a lot of players, like, actually, a lot of fans kind of hadn't turned on you at that point. They were still like, look, he's still really good, but obviously his team isn't good enough. And so, like, actually, it's a rare case where you can be like a good player on a bad team, basically. But I will say, in doing so, like, that does, for a fan who thinks you just have to win to be good, that is going to push, like, the credibility that you're a good player. So to me, listen, I thought both parties got something good out of that. Like, you got a chance to, like, reinvent yourself in America. You got a nice, healthy salary compared to what you used to get back in Europe. And then they got to have, like, a big name to start building their team up around. But when this move happened, like, I would feel a bit burned by that, mate. Because it's sort of like, what the fuck? Like, I was your guy. Like, I was helping you guys out. When you don't even like sort of give me a heads up that I'm getting kind of kicked out the back door. Did it not sort of annoy you or touch you in some emotional way in that sense?
Of course. I was really upset about it because, to me, I feel like life, like, things are just simple. Like, if you still want to, like, do something together and you still really like each other, then, and you say you're gonna do it, then you're gonna do it. It's that simple. Like if you have other plans, then like cool, but then just give me a heads up because then I can try to look for other things. But this just kind of leaves me like, okay, this is kind of just fucked. But on the other hand, that's how sports work, I guess, and it can change all the time.
True.
So it is kind of naive for me to just expect something to happen. But obviously, my 2 years in Aquafox was kind of like all about we're gonna build like the organization and then see where we can take it. Like I thought I was just gonna stay with Aquafox for like the rest of my time actually. But I guess they ended up having different plans. Like maybe they thought I was doing something I wasn't doing because I wasn't talking to anyone else. I don't really know. And I think that's maybe the guy from the NBA was used to the players just like dipping and just doing whatever. Like, but it is what it is.